And I wanted every single kid. I didn't not want you, but it wasn't from a mutual thing. It was just, this is what he was telling me, this is what we're going to do. So then I get pregnant, and I'm so sick that we end up losing that baby. And he even kind of blamed me for the supplements that I was taking. Everything was always blaming me, but I didn't see that. So then we get pregnant again, and I had Alexa after that, and I was really worn down. And then I nursed all of them for a long time. So that was like, you guys were what? I had you were 9 months. 9 months old, and I got pregnant with Rachel. So I'm nursing and having a baby.
Yeah.
And then I nursed everyone for a long time, and then I had Alexa. So I had that other baby, and that was very traumatic because I lost him at 4 months.
Miscarried, and then Alexa.
So I actually had to go in and deliver him.
The baby that we miscarried, which was Jeremy.
And so, because he was dying inside of me, and that would probably caused a lot of. So I'm having, toxemia from a baby that had died in me for a while, and I'm coughing because I already was sick in Snohomish, but nothing really got addressed. I wasn't big in going to the doctors, and then I had Alexa, and I don't remember how far are Buddy and Alexa apart.
2 years.
2 years. So then I had Michael, and he even wanted me to have more kids. And I was homeschooled him, got up at 5, just put out a lot of energy, and everything was really kind of up to me, which I guess that's how it is in a lot of these places, like Mormons and different things. The woman does it all, and the man just brings home the bacon and sits back and watches how great his family is. And then I had Michael, and at 6 months I dropped. And I was a very active person. I mean, it was literally taking somebody who was a super, super active person, and we hiked all the time, and I just dropped. I couldn't even wash my hair. And what had happened before that, there was some dried cat feces that was out in the yard. And I wanted the kids to be able to go outside, and you're not supposed to handle cat poop because when you're pregnant, it can be dangerous. And he never did it. And
he never cleaned it up.
Mike never picked up the cat poop.
Mike never picked up the cat poop. And so I wanted the kids to play outside in our little patio yard, and so I went out and did it. It had been there for so long, which anyone that knows us knows that he's very neglectful. So he just leaves things for a long time. It's just neglect is his middle name. So I went to pick it up, and it disintegrated into dust, and I inhaled it. And I was so panicked. I just felt so attacked by the enemy that something was going to be wrong with my son. And so we had people lay hands on me and pray, and I just felt like God said he's going to be fine. And I just stood on that, so much so that I forgot that it even happened. So when I went to the doctors, they even diagnosed me. They thought I had cat scratch fever, all these different things. After 5 rounds of antibiotics and him saying you have a blood infection, but we don't know what it is, I, as a non-believer, I really wasn't into doctors, so I just went to the library and tried to heal myself. So that was my journey of trying to fix myself. And then he literally says that this is what's so insane about the abuse and his mental illness, is that he said that I caused my blood infection by taking pseudoephedrine. I didn't take any medications until I went to the doctor because I had so many problems I had lumps, welts on my head. They said I had sinus infections. I couldn't really tell I had a sinus infection. I just knew that I had these welts on my head. Mm-hmm. And I was so fatigued, I couldn't wash my hair. And he believes that I was sick because of sin, and I'm not trying to be arrogant or anything, but I mean I was really pretty much a spaz for the Lord, and I all I ever did was share Jesus with people.
Yeah. And so I would say about there was
then we moved.
Yeah.
Then
can
we
talk
again.
about the move?
And I had no medical
really
records there.
Yeah.
I had no medical records there.
Yeah.
So we moved to Clearview.
Well, we moved there, but I want to talk about what happened when we moved to Oregon, because that's
right. But so we moved to Clearview.
Yeah.
And then we have a refrigerator leak, and there's toxic mold, so toxic that we had to leave and go to a hotel. But when they were there opening it up, I inhaled all this toxic mold, and so it was just like literally one thing after another after another. Now I had a boyfriend that died, and he died of cancer. Well, he had lung cancer at 21, but he worked at a lab where they dealt with like such toxic drug type things that they were testing that, you know, he got a lot of money because it was dangerous. And so I was exposed to somebody who also had that. I also worked at a paper mill, and I worked all over. So I mean, I've been
with
exposed
a lot of
to
asbestos.
I mean, I worked all over the mill. So, and then this was destined for me to get sick. It just was. I was almost died when I was when I was a baby. So all of this is obviously a part of God's plan, but I was so overworked that's what made it bad. And then I had an undiagnosed celiac disease, so I was basically never able to have any nutrients. You get malabsorption. So, but I tried to do everything. Like I would go to the library, I made apple cider vinegar and juicing, and I did all these things. And so I was able to like even keep it from people that I was sick because I was really good at cosmetics. I knew how to go tanning and look good. And so, you know, but these doctors were looking at me and saying that they thought that I had lupus, Lyme disease, all these different things, which I did. And I didn't know how I could have all these different things. But I once that mold got into me, I had the worst sinus infections ever. So I had a sinus surgery, and then we moved again. So we moved from Snohomish to California to Clearview to Oregon. And I had a naturopath, and she was trying to help me, but my sinus infection was so bad that I had to get a sinus surgery. So we moved to Eagle Point. I'm bedridden for a year. Would you like to say anything about that?
I was very upset about our move to Eagle Point because I had.
Oh no, we forgot to say why we left.
That's what I'm going to talk about.
Well, he lost his job in California.
Yeah.
He got fired.
Yep.
Was out of work for 9 months. Didn't even look for another job there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved back here, and then he gets fired again.
Yeah.
The second time.
Yeah.
So basically, we basically lost our house because he lost his job, and he blames me for all of our. I'm thinking, gee, I wonder if maybe the job loss maybe sent us back financially just a tad, especially when you went and bought a house in Eagle Point. When I said I don't think that's a very good idea.
Yeah, and I was particularly upset about the Oregon move because we were going out to the middle of nowhere, because he had this
some
dream
fantasy
that he was going to. He says a lot of things, but then he never follows through with it. So he's like, we're going to have horses, and we're going to have like our own place. And
it's either that or you're going to be homeless under a bridge. It's the two.
Yeah, and that's
right.
Mental
You're
illness.
You're going to be homeless.
You know,
it's going to be great. We're all going to be together.
But just unable to see reality at all. And so he was going to
be this reality.
Yeah, he was going to be he said he was going to be an insurance salesman. He didn't make like hardly any money the whole year that we were there because he was trying to start his own business. And my mom was in a pain coma that whole year, and I was
basically bedridden, worse than I'd ever been.
Yeah,
it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And you were like always like bloody, and you were constantly throwing up, and you were
skinny. That's right. I would throw up.
You were so skinny, and you were always like crying, and it was because like
pain.
Not crying in front of us.
He never took me to the doctor, not once.
You never cried in front of us, but we could hear you crying like in the bathroom, like sobbing because you were like in so much pain, and you didn't have pain meds, and you like were so emaciated that we could see your rib cage, and you had never looked like that, and I didn't know what was going on because I was about 4. So I had no idea, and Michael and I were left at the house all day long, but without any supervision because
it's like you're in a suburban jungle. That's how I felt like. I was like, I recognized that year because I was 12, and I was like, oh wow, okay, my dad is not here. He might as well be dead. I have to. It's up to me to protect everybody. And so,
when did I separate from him? Because I
was like halfway through the school year, and I was the one who I
think I was stronger emotionally then.
Yeah. The kids they were home, they weren't going to school, and I was going to school. Like that was my first time.
Michael was 2 and she was 4.
Yeah, and we were just thrown into stuff. Like Rachel was going off to some other school, and I was like taking the bus to a school. I'd never taken the bus before. I was a sensitive child, you know what I mean?
They were homeschooled before this.
So it was hard enough just to have that, but then to come home and have my mom be in like so much pain that she was moaning all the time, and then I would like the house every day would just be a whirlwind, and so I would clean everything up every single day. Like I mean, we're talking everything that was in a cupboard was out. Like it was like the kids just had
he was out to lunch. So keep an eye on the camera, Dr.
And at the end of that year, because at the end of the school year, And it was just hell. Like our yard, we had no grass. We went from like a really nice yard to having no grass, and it was literally
like almost
mud
an acre
mixed
before.
with, it was mud mixed with concrete. There was a tree that was like
like the Israelites.
Yeah, I used to have the kids make bricks in the backyard because I was like, you know what? It's like we're in Egypt. We might as well make some bricks. I don't know.
Yeah, we made so many mud. We made so many mud bricks that one day Michael got stuck in the mud. And we had to ship him out.
Watched Rescue Me so much. I looked over and she would always after us. What did I say? Rescuers?
Right.
Yeah, you
What
said
did I say?
rescue me. Yeah.
Oh, whatever.
That sounds
Whatever.
more accurate.
But I, because I was always in bed, just sick. I would sometimes teach Buddy. I would have enough energy where he would come in and I taught him how to throw a little spiral football. But I didn't know what they were doing. I mean, I know they were making messes and they were watching TV and they were doing videos, which I was usually but Lexi was pennied and she acted it out so well at 4. I was frightened. I said, I think maybe you've been watching them just a little too much, you know.
She would be
pennied out. I mean, she could imitate. Lexi's an actress, so she could imitate it, and it frightened me because I was like, how much are you watching?
Every day, all
Let me
day.
see. I think you've got it down.
So anyway, at the end.
But
of
I
that,
separated from him.
Yeah, halfway through the school year. He wasn't gone for that long. Like
And then all he did was sweep it under the rug.
Yeah.
And you had a
Came back and
breakdown.
he acted like nothing was wrong.
And he made no money. We were living off of the sale of a house that we did. And he bought a home. And I said, you should just rent. Not only did we waste money in living off of it, but we had to sell the house at less than what we thought, and we had to pay to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we only walked away with like $50,000 after having like $150,000 profit from a house that we got. So, but I'm the problem because I spend too much on supplements.
Yeah, and so then at the end of that school year, my dad invited me on a walk with him in the morning, and I was just gonna beg him to go back home because like my mom had found a job for him back at Boeing, and he didn't want to go because he
got an offer and he didn't tell us.
Yeah.
I was livid.
And he was still having this dream of being in Oregon and having because he
didn't make a dime.
Yeah, he came from Oregon, so he was like trying to recreate his childhood.
I think that was why I was getting angry with him because he wasn't dealing with reality.
Exactly. And so I went on this walk with him, and I just remember I was in the street, and I begged him. This was the last time I ever trusted my father ever, because I had already lost so much trust in him, and I was like, I'm just going to ask him if we can go back home, because I desperately I wanted to be back home so bad in Washington. And I said, please, Daddy, we have to go back. And he was just like, no, we can make it work here. And I was like,
up until the end, even after the job offer.
I was so distraught, and I remember screaming, and I ran back to the house. And
Which
that
is how
was,
we've all felt with him.
Yeah.
Just like when I said, I don't want to marry you.
Yeah.
And he had to shake me violently. And don't forget, on the honeymoon, I woke up out of my trance because they're very good. And I said, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. I don't even know you. And he laughed like a psycho.
Oh man, that's a nightmare.
And it was just...
You could have gotten it annulled.
But I'm such a, to a fault.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to make this work.
Yeah.
So that is how he is. He doesn't listen.
No.
It has nothing to do with relationship. It has to do with how he feels and how he looks.
And it's
to others.
We are all accessories.
Yeah.
We're simply accessories. And if you feel that way about people, it is.
Gosh, don't
It's
teach.
I know, but it's the most awful thing, because everyone around you is a real person, and that's when people are always like, well, how can your dad do that? It's like, because my dad doesn't see me as a person.
But remember,
My dad doesn't see me as a person. I am simply an accessory to him to make him feel good, and if I don't make him feel good, I don't exist.
But remember, you used to say it was like Mary Poppins. The kids actually, just the biggest frustration is me not believing her. It's the typical, the mom doesn't see that there's abuse going on.
Yes,
you would say, it's like Mary Poppins, that's like Dad. And I believe that he was the most wonderful father. Yeah. I mean, I just thought he was just the greatest because he wanted children. Why would somebody want children and not be a good father? Well, yeah, if you're a little bit strange, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you want to have something that looks normal,
or feed off of young people's energy, and feed off
and get love. You're
feed
children's
energy, because everything that he said about his own dad was like, after about 7 or 8, he just couldn't connect. Because you like young children.
Yeah,
we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and So it was just very, and then what happened was we moved to this new house.
Only because I literally got physical with him. I was so angry.
Yeah.
He didn't tell me that he got a job offer.
Yeah.
And I said, "You're kidding me. You're not." This was a year. I said, "You're not going to take the job?" He's like, "I'm just ready on the cusp of," I'm thinking, no, we're on the cusp of like bankruptcy, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And so he kind of got beat back down because of a stronger personality than him.
Mm-hmm.
And I even told him before, I said, "If it's between you and me, I'm not going down."
Mm-hmm.
He thought that he could even, try to take me to the mental hospital and stuff. It's like, it's not, I might be beat down, but I'm stronger as a person than he is just emotionally.
Yeah.
And I was just livid. I couldn't believe it. I said, "We are leaving." Remember when I said we need to go to Mill Creek?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, but then he found the worst, most moldiest place that he could find.
Yeah.
I get sick again. Remember, I'm sick from infancy. I'm sick throughout, I have irritable bowel syndrome in college. I am sick throughout my whole life. And didn't really believe in doctors, so I didn't go a lot. But I didn't, and I even kind of forgot about the blood infection and the inhaling the cat feces. And then I have a headache so bad, I'm like, I had to go to the doctor. So I go to the doctor. He wants to put me on antibiotics for like a year, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do that route.
Mm-hmm.
I'd already had a sinus surgery before I left the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes a CAT scan, and he immediately calls the surgeon and says, "I need her to get in right now," because he thought I had a brain abscess. So this is the kind of stuff that Mike just doesn't ever talk about. And because I had such bad encephalitis, which is brain inflammation later on, I couldn't remember about anything. I couldn't remember anything, which was what made it really easy for him to abuse me.
Yeah, yeah. Because we were just kids, and then his wife.
So then I had a sinus surgery. And I remember waking up and I was screaming so loud that they were nervous, because you come out of, post-op and you're with other people, and the nurses kind of, you know what I mean? They don't want to have some kind of a bad scene. So I go and I have the sinus surgery, and then I was worse off after the surgery. But that's what happens when you have this kind of stuff. It's like I had a blood infection that caused, it's like Lyme with all these different co-infections it was just a very complex, it's hard to explain, but when your immune system's down, you're going to get all sorts of things. So I had to go back and have another sinus surgery afterwards, and then they don't want to see you anymore. So I go back to the doctor that referred me, and he said, "Well, maybe you don't have a sinus infection, maybe it's a pituitary problem." I wanted to strangle him. I was like, after that I was thinking, I don't know how much trust I have in these doctors, because when you have great insurance and you're kind of a decent patient, I guess, they want to take you. You've got good insurance, they're gonna, I had everything that they said that was wrong with me. So after that, I had a team of doctors. I saw the head of the Seattle Arthritis Clinic. He's a top doctor. I went and saw Dr. Lawler, who owns 5 skin and laser clinics and is assistant professor of dermatology. But this was years ago. So I had an immunologist, McBride from the Everett Clinic, the allergist.
Right?
The allergist, who's the one who gave me the PICC line for 6 months, but it was like they were kind and they were trying to help, but it was like it was always just on me. And Mike drove me, but he never helped me. So I had an endocrinologist, immunologist, rheumatologist, dermatologist, and I dropped the dermatologist because I went to the University of Washington and they wanted to do this big round table and study me, and Mike took me the wrong day. But never, so I didn't realize that he really wasn't helping me, and
so
I was
can
trying to help
explain
myself.
This a little bit? So he would chauffeur her there, but he was not emotionally there with her at any of these appointments. It was just, she was just there on her own. He was just kind of, it was just a bother. And then he hated having to spend any money on her illness.
Oh, that's right.
It just was so, he hated having to spend money on it. He didn't want her to go to the doctors because it was expensive. And he didn't want her to do supplements because it was expensive. So he would do very cheap experimental treatments on her that he would find on the internet, and he wouldn't even do them properly.
He would always tell me, "I love you."
Yeah, so he did a lot of ozone machines, and there are some valid things about ozone and stuff, but he would never do any. He didn't do it properly.
Like even when he built that right machine, because he was too cheap, he burned me.
Yeah.
Because I was taking medications.
Yeah.
And I didn't find that out until this year. And it was like he would do things, but he was never thorough. Like, you're never supposed to take any kind of medicines.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, it burns. Yeah. Oh, it must be working.
Yeah. And so basically what I would say is
he's abusive.
He treated her
like a pet.
Like a
dog.
He treated you with duct tape when you were bleeding out.
Jimenez treated me for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
and all these different doctors, and I was on all these different medications and pain medications, because if I didn't get on the hydrocodone, my kids couldn't touch me. I couldn't be touched. I don't know how to explain it. It's just like I had lesions all over me. And then you need to talk about doing surgeries on me. I mean, you did surgeries on me, and I think that was before I went to the wound clinic, right? And then after I went to the wound clinic at the apartment.
It was kind of throughout.
But I mean,
times.
It was more intense afterwards.
Yeah, very much so, because she would get skin lesions, and so she would debride.
But
them.
it was so expensive to get debrided.
Yeah.
He would do these experimental procedures on me, and I said, I tried everything, and it doesn't work, and I'm going to spend money on nutraceuticals, because when the doctors told me that there was nothing else they could do for me, I could feel myself dying. Okay.
And you were on ingestible chemo before that.
What? Oh yeah, chemo. That's right. See, yeah. So the chemotherapy caused all of the medicines that Dr. Jimenez put me on. He treated me for 5 years. Everything would cause my symptoms to be gone, but every time I got my blood work, he would say, "Oh, your red counts, your white counts too low." And I would cry, and I would say, "Oh, but I feel so much better, please." No. And he's like, "Rhonda, I can't. I mean, I can't kill you. You know what I mean?" So the last drug was chemo. And that was like, they called and they're like, "Are you having infections?" And it was horrible. I mean, the infections were awful. And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "You have to get off that chemotherapy right now." I had to have my blood tested every day for like 10 days. Not a word from Mike. Anyway, it's hard for us to even talk about, because they were children and I had a bad memory. But when I said, "Ashley, can you take care of Michael? Please, Ashley, I'm going." And Ashley had this look on her face like, "No, tell him."
Yeah,
tell him what you said. Yeah. Tell him what your look was on your face.
I don't even remember.
I do. I remember eyes this big, and I felt myself going. And I was like, well, I tried everything. I went to the doctor for 5 years. I mean, they say there's nothing they can do for me. I have fought this and fought this. I cannot beat this thing, which was hard for me because I was such a fighter.
Yeah.
And she said, and it's just like a mom trying to pick up a car when your kid's underneath it or something. I was a competitive athlete, okay? A boxer, rugby player, all sports, everything. Just tomboy tough. And that mama bear inside of me, she was just like, I said, "Please just make sure Michael's okay. Would you please just make sure that Michael's okay?" And I'm talking to her. I wasn't even crying. I was just giving her my last bits of, "This is what you have to do.
I was just like,
this is the last bits." And she was not having it. The look on her face was like, "You're kidding, right?" "No." She said, "I can't. No, I can't. No, I can't." And I was like, I was just so surprised. Mm-hmm. I was so surprised how shocked she was. And so then that was it. And I said, "Okay."
And you want to know why?
I took all these supplements.
And you know why? Because Ashley knew that there was no father in her life.
She was
she would be the
scared.
single parent. Because if you die,
it was all
we would
on
all
me.
die.
That's why I was feeling
Okay,
that
because-
way. I was like,
right.
So that's why you didn't get that.
So then what happened was,
because you thought Mike was there, and so you were okay
I
with dying,
did. I
and
thought
that
he
is
was
an
a
important
great
part of the
man.
story.
I
She
trusted
goes,
him.
"I'll die and you'll be fine," and Ashley goes, "You die and I'm dying. We're all gonna die. The ship is going down." Like,
so anyway,
you know?
because she was so scared, I was like, I really did. I trusted Mike. He really bamboozled me. Just totally fooled me.
Because after we moved back, I would say that you kind of had a memory lapse and
Oh,
really didn't
totally.
remember anything that happened.
The brain inflammation was just so bad.
And that's
I can't
why
even
it was
tell you.
also so frustrating for us children, because like we would say, "Mama, don't you remember this?" And she'd be like, "No." And then so
it was like having Alzheimer's.
It was horrible.
Encephalitis is awful, which was induced by the Lyme co-infections, and plus everything was food related because of glyphosate, Roundup, and also celiac, and all these different things. All these, if you've been around, I've been on a lot of different diets, but I was determined. And look how good my kids look. Mm-hmm. We were all unhealthy. Every single one of us were unhealthy. So that was when I said, I started to fight him, and I started to do research, because I'm a researcher, and I found things to help me, supplement wise. And that was just too much, man. He got so angry, and he told me I was robbing God.
And he said, "You are robbing God because now I can't tithe to the church."
he scrimped on food. He scrimped on no savings for, and I don't care. Like, I paid my own way for college, like whatever. But he made sure that you got a lot less money for your supplements, and the church got way more than you ever did.
So
That's
anyway,
how it
I
was.
did all this research, and I am in a very intense, aggressive researcher, and I took supplements, and it was a battle. And he was always fairly supportive. Mm-hmm. He had some kind of a sick relationship with me. It was a very, like,
He loved
stalker,
he loved
stalker
hated
type
her.
thing.
Yeah, because he was obsessed with her. So
Right,
it was,
especially, you know, sexually, I was like a sex slave, so even I would have tumors all over my body, but he would still expect me to have sex with him. He was just very selfish. But I just was really into, you know, suffering and, you know, being like Jesus, I guess, and whatever, and I didn't realize that he was abusing me. So what happened was, is and also the hydrocodone. He always judged me later for being on the hydrocodone because a lot of Christians, well, once he goes to a different church, it just all depends on what cult he's in. If he's in a cult, they're just whacked.
a lot of churches will condemn you if you are on any kind of
Any kind of medication,
because
even
they
for
think that
depression,
you don't have enough faith
whatever,
to be
or
healed.
everything is of the
And
devil
so,
and
yeah.
whatever. So anyway, I was able to actually get up and work out being on that stuff because it was just took my pain away.